think we're here today to try and inform as many veterans as we can. We're here with Dr. Bash.
Welcome, Radio Land, TV Land, and YouTube viewers and listeners. This is Dr. Craig Bash. I've been doing veterans medical opinions for 30 years, and I have dozens and dozens of these radio shows which we're going to publish on this YouTube channel, and number 1 through whatever. So thank you for listening, and here we go.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Basher Hour. Today is Tuesday, 12th day of March, 2019. This year is going by like a rocket on rails. Today, my co-host is Mr. Gerald Cook, and we have a very special guest. His name is Dr. Bash. A lot of you veterans know Dr. Bash. He's also the Veterans Medical Advisor. He does independent medical opinions and evaluations for veterans claims, and he's been doing it for a very long time, and he's very good at it. How you doing today, Dr. Bash?
I'm good.
Okay. We were going to discuss something on this show. We were going to discuss your latest Bash Bulletin. I guess it was how to survive a claim in 2019.
Yeah, 2019. Yeah, there's new rules that came out. You know, they're not letting the veterans have much in the way of adding new evidence. They're trying to cut back on the evidence.
We covered some of that last week discussing that, there's a lot of new factors involved, and it depends on which road you choose to appeal bill, When you get denied, you can choose all these different avenues to appeals now, and one of them actually cuts off your adding new evidence. So that's something the veteran needs to really look at and understand, because if you file with, if you get into this new appeal system and you select it and you can't add evidence, you must go ahead and jump because you're done.
Yep, that's called the higher level review lane, right?
Yep. I think it is, high level review. Of course, they changed terminology every day,
Yep. Higher level review, no new evidence allowed.
Yep.
That could really hurt a veteran, because so many times you don't get a hold of some of this evidence till the last minute.
Yep. There you go.
And that's
right.
Not good.
That's right, because you have to have extra testing or maybe have a specialist look at it, or maybe the medical knowledge changes in the meantime. You have new medical knowledge to help you.
That's true. Very true. That's a tough one. I don't see how, that one cannot survive. That would put a hurt on an awful lot of veterans. Surely that won't.
Some veterans might take it because it's a faster lane,
Yeah, I can see that. I know some veterans that went through the RAMP process in their appeals. I know a couple of them that actually were successful in the process, because both of them got 10% for rating should have been 60%. So, it's kind of like it's like trying to knock bowling pins down with a tennis ball.
Right. So you get a fast review but a minimum rating.
Yeah. So then the veteran's got to appeal that decision, and you got to fight to get your correct percentage. And it's just a headache, and if you go through the traditional appeal, or they call it the legacy appeals process now, excuse me for misquoting, it's the same old process, the appeals, and I guess the backlog was several thousand, now several hundred thousand, so I don't know exactly what it is today. I'd like to get some accurate numbers, but sometimes we don't have access to that information as to the actual backlog itself. So,
at the BVA, right? The BVA, but still could be 2 years.
Yeah, BVA.
Wait there, right?
Yeah, 2-year wait. Yeah, it would used not be that way, but somebody in D.C. decided they were going to go ahead and put an emphasis on getting all these claims done to reduce the actual claims backlog. Well, they actually got the claims backlog reduced, but they did it at the BVA, because the backlog from claims just transferred, from the VA regional office to the BVA, because most of the claims are just, auto denial, I guess is what we call it.
Yeah. Now it's BVA. That next level BVA, you're supposed to be able to have some new evidence there again. So that higher level review lane, no evidence at first. Then you wait a few years. BVA, you might be able to get some evidence in there, and then you have no decision.
Yeah, high level review.
Then the other pathway is that one called supplemental claim lane, right? Something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Supplemental claim.
Supplemental.
So those are extra reviews that you put new evidence in. They want to have something that's pertinent or relevant. New evidence has to be relevant. So I'm
that's
thinking,
a new word.
Yeah, relevant, right?
Another new word. It replaces new material. Easier to type, I guess.
Yeah. Right. Relevant. So my plan is to kind of try and make sure the veterans have the best claim up front. Try and front load this whole thing. Try and get the testing done. Try and get the lay letter done. Try and get Nexus done. Try and get all that stuff up front. And then when you get into those lanes, you got like a little jump start on it,
Yeah.
Because if you don't have those claims, something that's important is the way you identify the claim. It used to be you could write the claim on a piece of toilet paper, put it in, but now you have to have a kind of specify what your issue is, what your secondary issues are.
Mm-hmm.
So it's complicated. The VA is loving to group things now. I see like necks, group with knees, group with hips, 10%. They group all together. So it's veteran says.
Well.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you, Dr. Bass, since you're in this stuff. You're a neuroradiologist. Say a veteran has a claim, and he's got neurological conditions, basically radiculopathies and things like that. But, radiculopathies are nerve effects and things like that to muscles and your shoulders and your arms. And say if you lose a lot of atrophy, a lot of muscle mass in your shoulder and your arm, and it starts, it locks up and have a lot of problems.
Well, the nerve can cause sensory problems and also can cause motor muscle problems.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you see those claims that they talk about with the DBQs. They'll talk about range of motion. They'll talk about sensory radiculopathy, and they'll talk about the myelopathy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the weakness, so they can rate all that stuff. So that's why you have on the DBQ, you have the range of motion and the strength testing. A lot of times they kind of go together, but they don't have to.
Yeah, it depends on the nature of the, if it's a traumatic or whatever, injury or whatever, what happens. It comes, you can tell. I mean, certain things happen with, spinal cord injuries and things like that. So it's just it's just a different avenue. And sometimes they don't rate it correctly. They'll rate one issue instead of the other, or they'll combine multiple ratings into one rating.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
It gets into the function. Like you might have numbness in your hands, but you have pretty good grip strength. So they can rate. They can rate kind of the worst one. They might rate the numbness and not rate the myelopathy, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
You might have myelopathy, you can't open jars. So they can rate that strength weakness.
Yeah, well, and that would vote on the sensory or the functional issue of the nerve, wouldn't it?
Right.
Because if you're sensory impaired, you can have motor. You can be motor effective, but sometimes your sensory's gone.
Mm-hmm.
So you can move your hand.
Yeah, a lot of the things based on the motor, because that was where the schedule was set up for people's function. They couldn't shovel, they can't walk. Like the classic thing is you can't walk or you need a cane, crutches. All that stuff adds to your rating. But also, if you have sensory problems, such that you don't have good balance, you can fall based on balance. You can still get a high rating for sensory problems. For the same kind of function.
That's true.
So it's a mixture. As usual, the rating schedule is kind of based on function, regardless of whether it comes at nerve from motor or nerve from sensory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the way it's set up, I mean, it's a little bit different Social Security situation. The VA set up on the amount of the amount of working ability you lose due to your service-connected condition. You know, that's how they said. That's how they base it on the actual environment, and it's based on the wage scale too. It's not based off Social Security's all or none. This is based off the federal wage scale, and you know, across the country.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why.
And the Social Security's changing the thing too. They're asking for more objective testing than they're using nurse practitioners now too. So I'm starting to use the DBQs. Like I'll do a DBQ for a patient, maybe for a VA claim, and I'll use that same DBQ and send to Social Security because it gives you a nice objective muscle testing, range of motion, and strength, stuff like that.
Oh, okay. Because they still have that functional assessment they give the patient, give the claimants.
Yeah, they have that, but I'm using the DBQs. Yeah, but I'm also using DBQs because they'll take medical record information, right? So the DBQ's has a nice layout of some of the same stuff they're asking in the functional testing, right, for Social Security. So I'm using that because it's easy. You know, it's easy to throw it in the record.
Dr. Bash, have you seen this new report here where they're going to use genetic testing on veterans in order to prescribe their medicines?
No, I haven't seen that, but I know.
It just come out March the 12th, and to me it don't look good, but some people may like it. I could see abuse. You know, it could be used for a lot of abuse. But if they claim that veterans genetically, you know, if they have heart trouble, well, it's genetic because it comes down the family line, and it's not a VA or, you know, you couldn't have got it in the service, couldn't have happened in the service. I can see a lot of room for abuse here.
Yeah, that's always been the scapegoat pathway for the VA to say that it was a genetic disease versus an acquired, you know. But the genetics are interesting because you can have susceptibility. Say, for example, somebody has a genetic susceptibility to anaphylactic reaction, and you give them a vaccine, and they die. You know, so you can say, well, the patient had a susceptibility to it, but if he wasn't in service and we didn't give him a vaccine, he wouldn't have died. You know, so the genetic susceptibility is involved in a lot of diseases, but those diseases are oftentimes manifest due to the environment or the situation the patient's in, you know.
Well, if used properly, it turn out to be a great thing, but you know, I can see room for so much abuse that, and who's to establish the tolerances on this? You know, is it going to be between 4 or 5? I mean, 4 and 10, and then they keep changing it, 4 to 9, 4 to 8, and so on and so forth, and I can see so much room for abuse. Overall, like I say, if not abused, it could turn out to be a beneficial.
Well, you know, I was just trying to think about an analogy. One analogy is the idea with a DIC case. If a patient died from some disease process that lent assistance to his death or lent assistance to the development of disease, then the veteran still gets credit for it. So say, for example, the patient has some genetic susceptibility to some disease, but their service or their environment they're in the military lent assistance to the development of that disease or made it develop earlier. You might be able to argue that the disease was made worse or aggravated by the environment. That might be the way to get around the abuse of the genetic part of it.
Dr. Bash, I want to switch up a little bit. Gerald was talking earlier today. We were discussing. He saw an article, and we discussed a little bit. The VA is going to start doing genetic testing of the veterans. And I guess I don't, understand where they're going to do it, but I think they're going to try to. There's something coming down the pipe now. I can't really figure it out just yet, but if they start doing this genetic testing, that's going to group veterans in certain areas, certain, conditions where a lot of conditions are congenital, and I think they're going to, yeah. So that's something that we were discussing. Have you heard anything about that?
No, I haven't seen that. We just talked about that a little bit, but I don't know what was the purpose of it. Did they say they're trying to use it for making diseases, treat diseases better or something like that?
Yes, that's their
Yeah.
excuse.
Yeah, that's the worm on the hook.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see room for a lot of abuse here. I don't know who's going to have the oversight over this, but it's something that we need to keep an eye on, because I can see it be very important to a lot of veterans. Like I say, if used properly, it could be a great thing. But if not, if they use it as a weapon against veterans, then there could be some trouble.
Well, like I said, in my mind, that we know that most diseases are some mixture of environment plus genetics, So if I had to write a medical opinion about that, and I could find some research or literature that pointed to the fact that the environment made the genetics worse, then I could, write a nice medical opinion around that. So I could take those one by one, but you're right. The VA's, I don't get to deal with all the cases, so there might be a lot of cases that go through that are turned down just all based on the gene makeup.
Actually, I'm thinking down the pike. No, you guys don't quote me on this, but the most popular claim now with the VA, besides tinnitus, okay? The most popular claim is diabetes. And diabetes is like a roadmap, because it's got so many secondaries attached to it down the road that people usually wind up with high level special mental compensation by having diabetes when it gets really bad, because you get peripheral neuropathy and loss of use and things like that. So there's people knocking down some serious bank that has diabetes. I'm thinking they're starting to do a little bit of fishing, and they're trying to set the hook in something, and the bait's already in the water. So, I mean, it may not be this year, it may not be next year, but I would say 5 or 10 years down the pike, it's coming.
Well, yeah, they'll claim it's genetic.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we're headed, anyway.
Yeah. Well, to put it bluntly, everything they do is based on someone's agenda. And how they word it and everything, in a situation like that, how they do it, it depends on how to fulfill their agenda. If they want to, they want to throw the bait and be a little subtle like that, and then get the person to come up and bite, and next thing you know, there's a treble hook in the water, and you're hooked with Kevlar.
Damn Kevlar.
So, yeah. That's
we'll keep our eye out for that, because there are types of juvenile type 1 diabetes that's pretty genetically based, but the type 2, we've always thought is not necessarily, but maybe more medicine comes in, and genes, I'm sure there's a mixture of the gene and the environment.
Yeah, probably is. I mean, but I think type 2 is more or less an issue with the pancreas myself. It doesn't produce,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but type 1's a bad deal too. I know some folks have had it, and a couple of us passed away. Over a period of time, they wind up losing a hand and a foot and an arm. So it's pretty sad. It's a dreadful disease, folks.
Yes, it is.
If you have it, take care of it. Eat right. It's all about what you eat and how you eat it. That's true.
And when you eat it.
Yeah, well, we need it too. That's right. So, I mean, you get, I know a couple of folks that are taking the U500 insulin, which is the strongest stuff made. And, that's pretty powerful stuff. Because some people take the U100, this is 5 times stronger, so it's pretty bad stuff. But, I don't know. So, Dr. Bash, what does it take to successfully win your claim in 2019? What do you advise?
Well, I got my little Bash bulletin, So we talked a little bit about first thing is try and get your claim set up correct from the beginning, and try and get your doctor to look at the different aspects. My classic example is the old idea with the elephant. That you have all these fast visits now, these 15-minute visits, and everybody's just tackling one problem at a time. And your example is the diabetes. Where people have peripheral neuropathy, and there's 1,000 causes for that, and they have maybe some vision problems. There's 1,000 causes for that. You might have some cardiomyopathy, and there's a bunch of causes for that. Nobody sit back and go, well, maybe he has diabetes, for example, and it's causing all these other things. So if you put your claim in for diabetes with all secondaries, you're going to have a much more successful route than putting your claim in for peripheral neuropathy and trying to blame it on 10,000 chemicals, something like that. So try and get the claim correctly done for the beginning if you can with the correct secondaries, because the VA is not really looking for secondaries anymore, and they're not really looking much for trying to do workups and I've been told that the rater's been told not to send it out for any secondary reviews or DBQs or testing or expert opinions. They've been told if it's not in the claim file, just deny it. So that first claim is going to be denied if it's not developed right from the get-go.
Well, so I was diagnosed with diabetes in 2000. Let's see, what was it? About 2004, and I didn't have diabetes until I started taking the statin meds. I was fine. After about 6 years of taking statin meds, it got me pretty hard. So I believe there's a relationship though between statin meds and diabetes. I've seen articles on it, but nobody wants to touch it.
Yeah, I haven't looked into that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of issues. I mean, and the statin medication is what it does. It lines your vessels, and it keeps the plaque buildup in there. So I guess it allows the insulin stuff and the sugar to go right on through. So I think it might have an issue with it. But there's so much money in the diabetic industry anymore, in the medicine industry, they'll never come up with a causal relationship with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I just saw
most people with diabetes. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just did a little research while you're talking about it. I saw a couple articles on that. Talks about it a little bit. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it'd be something to look into.
Yeah.
Something to look into. I mean, if a veteran wants to win a claim.
It says downregulation of glucose transmitters by statins. Yeah, so there's some. There could be a risk. They said the benefits of the statins outweigh the risks of the diabetes, but depends on which disease you have, right?
It depends if you want to jump off a cliff over water or jump off. You know what I mean?
Right. Heart attack or pancreas attack, right? Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why. That's why we're in the world we are today. Things happen, and your health is not. People are living longer, but these medicines are helpful. But unfortunately, people have these, and lifestyles and things like that, and genetics do increase a person's risk for all these diseases and issues. So
that's exactly the kind of stuff you want to put in your claim. You put that right in your claim up front. Do they give you statins? I think statins are part of the process of diabetes. Put that in there. Try and develop it up front.
You'd have to get a timeline.
Make things consistent. Make sure that lay letters that is consistent with the DBQ, it's consistent with the Nexus, and consistent with the medical records, all those, because the VA, one thing the VA does, they look for consistency between all those things, you know. Thank you all for listening. That ends this show, and now I'm going to zoom off.